Welcome to the Actionable ESG Talks series, brought to you by AKFI, the Actionable Knowledge Foundational Institute, the world's first non-profit industry consortium committed to bridging the gap between ESG, sustainability, and digital transformation. Actionable ESG Talks series bring together great minds to discuss the current state and future state of ESG, sustainability, AI, and digital transformation. I'm delighted to be here with our guest, Vali Marszalek, and going a little bit through her amazing biography. Vali is a director at Forvis Mazars, specializing in ESG and sustainability advisory, with a focus on EU regulations, including CSRD, pay transparency, and the Pay Transparency Directive. She leads projects such as double materiality assessment, ESRS gap analysis, EU taxonomy alignment, carbon footprint on all three scope 1, 2, and 3 areas, net zero strategies, climate risk assessment, sustainability strategies, gender equality policies, and ESRS reporting. Vali was a member of the Croatian National Working Group for the transposition of CSRD into to the Croatian law. Again, welcome to our talk, Vali, and really, with a stellar biography like yours, I'm a little bit lost where to start. But we usually start with a general, more trends-related question. And since the omnibus vote in the EU Parliament, it's in process or had been completed, what's going to be next?
Hello. Thanks for having me, Emmanuel, and I'm very happy to be here with you and talk to you and talk about some of the trends and also maybe some of the expectations moving forward. And of course, the omnibus is the first kind of a question for anyone from the EU, definitely. So the omnibus conversation has moved significantly, and we have heard of the proposals from the EU Commission and from the Council and now from the Parliament, and we see this major shift in terms of reducing the scope of companies obliged to report. And also the scope of companies that would be obliged to conduct due diligence. Originally, the CSRD, so the reporting directive, was supposed to be relevant for companies that would fulfill 2 out of 3 criteria. And one of those criteria was the number of employees, and that was originally 250 employees. Now the thresholds have arisen significantly, even as high as 1,750 employees. And with the due diligence obligations, it goes even as high as 5,000 employees, which means that, instead of having like hundreds of companies in scope of these obligations, we now have, only the biggest players, So it's a significant shift, definitely, but it's still, and I say still, just one aspect. So it's a legal requirement, which does not mean that everything stops, with this for companies that would fall out of scope. But we will probably talk more about that.
Yeah, and for this side of the Atlantic, I'm not sure if everybody follows closely the European directives, although they should, because companies doing business in Europe are subject to European law, to national laws, wherever they operate. Could you go a little bit through the history, right? So we started with these CSRD regulations, which you said they were very broad, in the sense that when you said 250 employees, I was going to joke and ask, do we count AI as an employee or not? But uh, give us a little bit of the history, and why is
Mhm.
this important to everybody that it's in sustainability, both as in the reporting category as well as in the supply chain, where they have to help with the reporting or assist?
Yeah, well, the history kind of goes back to the EU Green Deal. So that's like a, a political agenda, very focused on sustainability, describing what the life in the EU should look like, and also kind of setting these very clear targets and ambition and commitments from the EU. Now, one of these targets is also a climate neutral, right, continent by 2050. Now, with the omnibus, even that, this like major target, major goal is kind of taking, a step back, because now there are, proposals on table to even make climate transition plans not, obligatory for companies, which, then kind of asks one can ask a question. So how will we fulfill that target of the climate neutral Europe if, companies don't have climate transition plans? So, it doesn't really add up. But it all kind of started with the EU Green Deal, and then, we had like what we call here a very often like a tsunami of regulations. So it's not only CSRD, so it's a EU taxonomy, it's SFDR for the financial institutions. It's corporate sustainability due diligence directive, which didn't even come in place, and we now have like several steps back and risen thresholds and such. So it's a lot of us, a lot of aspects, a lot of regulations that were brought down to member states and to a business sector very fast. A lot of it came very fast, and it was difficult, and it still is difficult to really, grasp the scope and everything that's going on. But companies did make very, significant steps towards that. So we have companies in every member state, right? Who did, take those sustainability standards, reporting standards, who that actually wrote their reports. They, went through their materiality assessments. They developed their strategies. They know what they want to focus and where they want to focus. And now it's again kind of shifting, and it's a little bit, it brings a little uncertainty and a lot of confusion, I would say.
Well, thank you. That's a great tour of the history of the regulations and where we are. And I think there are market dynamics at play here. I'm not sure if I can name all the parts of the market, but definitely regulatory and politicians and the economics advisors in EU are part of it, the regulation part. There is another part which is the stakeholders, and those are more diverse. There are from shareholders to employees of the companies, to suppliers and their employees. So I hear these forces are at play in the market. Do you see the same? Do you see other forces that are major contributors to this, as you rightly define it, so a little bit of uncertainty, a little bit of, or quite a lot of change. So it looks like a pendulum which swings from one end to the other.
Yes, well, I mean, there are definitely stakeholders on, kind of both sides, I would say. There are stakeholders that are kind of, on board of this omnibus train, I would say. But in practice, what we see on the market with our clients is that they receive more and more questions coming from banks, from their major buyers, from different stakeholders that are not slowing down. So there are they are still asking questions. They are still communicating some changes in terms of, well, we expect you to put in place certain action plans. If you don't, there might be a certain time in future where we will decide not to work with you because our ambitions are such and such. So there are definitely questionnaires and requests coming from big buyers, and then companies that are kind of supplying those big buyers. And if they are tier one suppliers, they can definitely expect a lot of data requests still coming their way. So this regulatory kind of shift does not mean that companies can just stop doing what they're doing and then kind of wait to see what will come next. We still have to move forward. We still have to answer to those stakeholders that are part of our ecosystem. So if we want them to remain part of our ecosystem, we definitely need to listen to them. Those are kind of a very loud voices, I would say, or I don't know, maybe I just listen to them more. Banks asking for ESG data as well, and also different stakeholders such as consumers, such as NGOs, right? I mean, there are different stakeholders that are still very, very loud and very standing by their sustainability commitments, and then expecting their partners to do the same.
Thank you. And the picture you sort of painting is it went from policy and I would say high-level directives, right? All encompasses big directives, to actually practical elements. And thank you for adding the finances. I'll add also the insurance companies, which are part of financing. And they're all interested in, okay, I don't know if you're reporting or not, but for me, it's important to understand the risk of my investment. It's important to understand what risk I'm covering you for. And this is probably the source of these initiatives, which in some ways say, well, okay, you report or not, that's your business. But our business is to understand how reliable, how resilient it's your business when you look at sustainability. Is this the correct picture?
Yes, definitely. I mean, it's about that. It's not. Sometimes people think that sustainability is about reporting. it's not about reporting. It's about everything behind the report, because you have to have all of that in place in order to actually report on it. So it's about managing your impacts, risks, and opportunities, having a correct governance in place in order to really manage your, on one side, your risks, but then also to use all the opportunities, right, that are
Absolutely.
opening up as well. So and the a report is just, kind of, I would say, like one deliverable, or one, product that can be there. You can communicate your efforts externally, and also very important internally. But it's, it doesn't have to be necessarily a legal obligations. So we have also clients that are now aware that they do not need to report for now, so they will see in a future. So they don't, right now they don't have the a regulatory obligation to report, but they are thinking about doing it voluntarily, because they want to communicate their efforts to all their key stakeholders.
Oh, that's actually excellent. And recently, we've seen an article in the Financial Times, which, in my interpretation, says sustainability becomes business as usual. As before, CSOs were in charge with the what I call it combination of practical and aspirational goals. We want to do all this, but there was no strategy attached, as you mentioned. And now, in order to report, if you don't have a strategy, your reporting it practical will be all over the place. Every time you report, it is going to be different. So I was going to ask, what's your opinion of this um, combination of sustainability and actually business elements, as you mentioned,
Mm.
finance, legal, as well as communications with the stakeholders, major stakeholders, employees, and customers, consumers.
Yes, well, you mentioned a CSO. So a few years back, there was like this, we just had like a lot of ads for open positions in a lot of companies, searching for chief sustainability officers. And I think that this was like a trend, anywhere on the, planets, basically. But definitely within the EU, there were a lot of open positions a few years ago, and some companies saw it as, as a life jacket, if you may.
Mhm.
So, we will employ this person, and this person will, kind of make our life a lot easier, because this person will do all the work and deliver this a report, and we are fine, we are done, right? And then for companies that did not really had I did not really embed sustainability, as you said, as business as usual. What happened was that this person basically underdelivered, because
Sure.
if you don't have all the processes in place, and if sustainability is not like finance. So you said like finance, okay, so when you hire a CFO, you don't expect this person to do all the work, right? So this person will not
It's
do
an organization.
every financial task, right? So
Yeah.
you have finance in accounting, you have finance in procurement, in strategy, in audit. So it's like, the finance is core business, right? It's business as usual. Well, sustainability should be business as usual as well, which means that you need all of the other elements to fall into place as well. The HR, IT, legal, as you said, innovation, production, right? Procurement. So it all has to fall in place in order for the CSO then to sit in the executive board and have his role or her role connected to the KPIs, to the performance, right? And then have it this like a strategic oversight over everything. But it's not about this person doing every single step and all of the work. It will never happen. So you will always have like one person going into a battle that they will not win because it's not integrated in the whole business in the organization. So I think that that's the major problem that some companies just don't realize yet. And I think it's because when we talk about strategy, it's like, okay, so we have to have like a sustainability strategy. So we will develop this document and call it a sustainability strategy. If you don't implement it, it's just another document, and it will never bring value to your business. You have to implement it, and you have to explain to every employee what's their role in this strategy, and then it will come to life. So the same happens with the executive role as a CSO.
We have a non-profit and a small organization looking at sustainability and look at supply chain, and not as long as yesterday we had a whole discussion, a whole analysis of, with this change of the CSO role, do you see actually a progress in sustainability? And I think you already answered or brought the contour of the answer, or it's actually becoming very with a role, but with very low impact and significance. I'll start our preface that because I wanted to say that we see that the CSO role, as you described, it was more aspirational than practical, because they didn't have the tools. They were, they didn't have the organization, the budgets, and all the other tools. And now they become the role becomes operational from inspirational. So we've saw that, and yes, you brought a very good example of the finance, because in some way sustainability follows, with double materiality, follows the financial models. And if you look at finance, I always say at the meetings with shareholders, you see only two people: the CEO, which gives sort of a nice pep talk, and the CFO, which goes down and says, this is what we see, this is how we see it, this is what we did past, right? And now we're going to the future. This is our projection for the next quarter, next year, and so on. This is how we see the market. And they played a major role in reporting. So, to leave the question open, how do you see this transition? Is it a benefit for sustainability? Is neutral? Or it's actually a demotion, so we don't have CSOs anymore, there is no sustainability anymore?
Oh, well, I don't think it's possible. I mean, kind of looking at companies that I know of, right? So there are definitely companies that have a person, or it's like one person at the board level, kind of really driving sustainability, or it's even like a whole committee, or the board just living and driving a sustainability and driving these conversations, the same with the same frequency as finance, right? But there are also companies that don't have the CSO role on board level, but it's like a more down the line. So and further down the line you go, it's like it's not doable, because if the person does not have a decision making role, right?
Right.
And if the person is responsible for everything around sustainability, give it the reporting, the projects, the whatever, but does not have the power to make a decision, then it's very hard that it will ever be business as usual, because you're not doing it in the right order. So it has to come as a tone from the top, and if it's not from the top, then you don't have this sponsor, this figure that will drive it in the whole organization, and it can become very frustrating also for that person, that sustainability manager, or uh, however this person is called, because they don't have authority, they don't have the power within the organization, and then it just it kind of defies the purpose, right?
Exactly. You have the title, you have the responsibility
Yeah,
without resources, the
yeah,
resources being typically human resources and financial resources, right? So if you don't have all three together, um, you can even explain why the companies started with having sustainability as part of marketing and greenwashing and all this, because it's easy to talk about it, it's hard to execute.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
as
that's
you
true.
said, without the tools. And now, if I understand correctly, as these roles become more operational, uh, the CSO will have either reporting, direct reports into the finance and legal and compliance and so on, or maybe the function will become under the and this is a management decision, it's an organizational chart decision. If the finance sustainability person or group reports to the CFO, reports to the CSO, double reporting and so on. But at the end, uh, clearly there will be, for instance, a function in finance which says we need to report to the investment community, to the insurance community. We need to report on sustainability. And we need a strategy. We can't just report on the past, right? We need, because the first question is what have you done? The next question is how are you going to do in the next quarter, year, and so on. So I can see this picture that actually shows a sustainability gaining power inside the organization, even if the titles are no longer,
Yeah.
sustainability officer.
Yes, no, no, definitely. I think that the processes that companies went through in terms of the double materiality, double materiality analysis really gave that perspective, how the financial impact evolves from certain ESG risks, right?
Right.
So that I think that really opened some eyes, and started a different conversation at board levels, because we can all see certain risks, like climate risks. It's not something that we are talking about something that will happen in 100 year, I don't know, time. It's something that's happening, and it's happening more and more, and it's more powerful and more frequent. And then for any company that has already experienced a certain financial impact from a certain disaster connected to a climate risks, they can definitely understand how they need to really, put a strategy in place in case something like that happens again. And that's when the a conversation then really shifts from reporting to real strategic kind of imperative for a business.
Absolutely. And, again, looking from the US market, but we see now weather events pretty much um, uh, filtering down, if you want, in the insurance premium. In US, the insurance business is deregulated. So companies are leaving states like California, Louisiana. They're saying we're not going to insure you because either we don't understand your risk or it's too high, or they sometimes they get premiums of insurance that are 3 to 5 times higher. So companies cannot insure homes. Mortgages, for instance, cannot be insured, and uh, banks will not give the mortgage to the people because of that. So, sorry. That's practical, as you said, it happens every day. You see it
Yeah.
in the news, and the weather, it's in the news. We see weather patterns that they were not factored in. Also, in another interview, we found out that in the UK, you cannot put a new plant, a plan for a new plant without a sustainability assessment, for instance. How you're
Mm-hmm,
going to
mm-hmm,
use, for instance, green energy as an example.
mm-hmm.
So definitely, in one way, becomes from first page news, the role of sustainability becomes part of the financial news, becomes part of the, but definitely you're giving a very positive picture about the role sustainability continues to play in companies. And when we talk about companies, we talk also about the supply chain. And we didn't touch much about the supply chain today, but I know you're deeply involved also in understanding how the supply chains and sustainability play. So, could you shed some light? Can you put some light, some
Mm-hmm.
focus on the supply chain and their role in this new model where sustainability becomes operational?
Yes, I mean, I think that a supply chain aspect is always a very interesting, and it's the most challenging, I believe, for probably any company. And why is that? Well, because companies, so the data management, right? I mean, even from data collection, and then data management, and just data in general, is the most challenging part of sustainability. And then if you have challenges in securing data from your own operations, right, and kind of systemizing that data, then you definitely have even more challenges in collecting data from your suppliers and from multiple tier supply chains even more, right?